Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing the GeForce GTX, which, well, is not really GTX in Nvidia's website. It's the Nvidia Titan X little p, but we can call it the fastest GTX GPU because, look, it says GeForce GTX right there. So the Titan X little p over here was a $1,200 GPU MSRP in 2017 when it released, so it's 8 years old. It's based on the Pascal architecture, GP102 graphics processor, which is the same as the 1080 Ti, but this has the full unlocked core with 3,840 CUDA cores, 240 TMUs, 96 ROPs, and 12 GB of GDDR5X memory running on a 384-bit memory bus. This was a beast of a graphics card back in the days, although it didn't really offer that much extra performance compared to that 1080 Ti, giving the 1080 Ti at almost half the price the legendary status and the value king on the high end, of course. And the Titan cards weren't really meant for gaming directly. You could game on them, of course, and they are phenomenal for that, but they were more meant for professionals doing some other work with their GPUs, and that's why the 12 GB of VRAM were very nice to have on a Titan class GPU. Now, with this being a 10 series GPU in terms of its architecture, that means that it doesn't have tensor cores, so no DLSS. And you know what? I'm starting to believe that if they put DLSS on these cards, 1080 Ti as well, they would be immortal, basically, because as we'll see in this video, this still does a really good job in 2025. But let's try out some games now and see what it's capable of, shall we? And first up, we're testing Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p resolution utilizing the high settings preset. I just disabled these options right here, and no upscaling either. So it's native 1080p resolution, and look at this, guys. It looks great, it performs really well at the same time, and it's kind of no surprise because this GPU was still pretty good when Cyberpunk 2077 came out in 2020. Obviously, it has had a ton of updates since then, and it's actually a little bit more intensive to run these days, especially with the different graphics presets. 70-something FPS here on average at 1080p high settings is very playable. Obviously, it looks great at the same time, and we get to do the most important thing, which is goodbye, Bob. Are you wrong in the head or what? What did you say to me, Bob? Who has a head right now? Oh, what? Okay, it's me. Let's keep on going here. So this roundabout area is actually really intensive, and it's surprising to me to see that it only drops down to about 69 frames per second, because I was expecting it to drop into the low 60s, basically. Maybe over here it will drop into the low 60s, and indeed it does. 64 right there, but it's going to be a buttery smooth experience pretty much the entire way through with this GPU. Wait a second, let me check something out here in GPU-Z. It supports ray tracing, just like the other 10 series GPUs from 1060 and up, because they have been supporting ray tracing through the drivers since 2019. So does that mean that we can... Oh no, it doesn't work. It doesn't allow us to choose the ray tracing. So that's it for Cyberpunk 2077. I might actually make one of those videos testing the RTX Titan X little p. It's not an RTX GPU, but it supports ray tracing again, so some games will actually run with ray tracing very poorly, but it should be interesting, right? Let me know if that's something that you'd like to see. Let's just see the explosion of the car very close to us. It's not intensive. Really solid of an experience, guys. So after that wonderful experience in Cyberpunk, we're now testing Borderlands 4 at 1080p resolution using the medium settings preset, and well, I mean, come on, dude. Seriously, 30s? Like, after what we've just seen in Cyberpunk, this just gives us 30 FPS? Oh, this is so sad, actually. So we'll need to drop it down to low settings, I guess, to make it playable. I mean, this is playable, and I would be happy with this performance if I was playing on a GT 1030, you know, but a GTX Titan X little p? Like, no. Yeah, I don't like this. Obviously, this is all due to the poor optimization of this game, or lack thereof, actually. So let's drop it down to the lowest settings possible, which will disable the brass quality and so on. And on the low settings, it looks so much worse than Cyberpunk did. I mean, previously on medium settings, you could say, yeah, there's a lot of grass compared to Cyberpunk. The lighting is also maybe a little bit better because of Lumen. I mean, the lighting still looks good, but everything else is just so barren, right? Like, it lacks so much detail, and the draw distance on shadows and objects and everything is so poor. Oh my goodness, I'm not surprised here because the RTX 3060, which is similar in performance, actually this is usually slightly faster than the 3060, that GPU also struggled a lot in this game. It was doing a little bit better of a job than this is, probably because it's newer, you know, and it actually has some ray tracing cores. I mean, it's just so sad, guys. It's still dropping into the 30s, look at this. How is this acceptable? I mean, it's not acceptable. A lot of people refunded this game and aren't even playing it because of the lack of optimization here. At least you can still play it. It's just not an enjoyable experience, in my opinion. At least it's still native resolution, though. Now, you could utilize like FSR quality, for example, and make it a little bit better in terms of FPS. It's getting 50s now. What is going on? I just got attacked. I think it was that boy over there, yes. Anyway, it's not even enough to achieve 60 FPS, and we're now rendering the game at 720p and upscaling it to 1080p, and it looks like crap now. Everything is super shimmery. It is playable at the very least, but there are so many other games that will run perfectly on a Titan X little p that you should rather play instead of this. One of said games being Battlefield 6. We're playing this one at 1080p resolution using the high settings preset. Okay, not medium, not low, high, and FSR native AA, so we're still at 100% resolution scale. Now, I recently tested this GPU in this game. You probably have seen that video. If you haven't, well, maybe go watch it if you're interested in 1440p and 4K result and other settings, like low, for example. But yeah, it plays it like a champ. It's really smooth of an experience. It looks great on high settings as well. It's not like you're losing a lot by not playing on, like, maximum settings, for example. There we go, finally got a kill. It's dropping into the 60s inside. For some reason, inside of these areas, it's where it's dropping the most in Battlefield 6. I've seen that happen with a lot of GPUs by now, in different maps as well. But the lowest that you'll see is like 64 frames per second. Yeah, 1% lows are at 57, but it didn't really drop that far. And if it does drop from 60, in like a more intensive map, for example, you could always drop the FSR native AA and use no AA at all, which will look very clean still. So let's turn off the anti-aliasing right now, and here we have it. Cleaner graphics. I can spot enemies better at the distance like this than with FSR native AA or TAA or XESS native AA as well. If you are a little bit competitive in this game and if you want to get the cleanest graphics possible here, no AA is the way to go for sure. Alright, triple kill right there, not too bad. Let's see a little bit of sniper action as well. There we go, headshot that guy. There we go, another one down. There was one on the ground. Oh, they're reviving each other, bastards! No! Oh boy. Alright, that was a good effort though, good effort. There we go, got another one there. But yeah, this is why we should definitely support developers that do optimize their games and make great games as well. Like Arc Raiders as well. Like, that game is so well optimized. I recently tested it with this GPU, and it played it amazingly. Anyway, should we move on to it? Here we are at 1080p resolution, utilizing FSR 3 native AA and the high settings preset, and yeah, my friends, we're getting 90 to 100 FPS, or like 80 to 100 most of the time. That is so good. This is also a new map that I am testing here. It's the first time that I'm playing on it. But yeah, basically this is another recent title in 2025 that runs really well. It does look a bit fuzzy in the edges though, especially on the vegetation, because it's UE5, I guess. But with FSR 3 native AA, it actually minimizes the shimmering, and it works quite well. So what a wonderful job these devs have done in terms of optimization as well. Oh yes, and this is in the same engine as Borderlands 4. Just let that sink in, okay? Like, how is it even possible? Okay, every time I bring up Borderlands 4, I get triggered, guys. I'm sorry. Oh my god, what the heck? So, this is our time to die, my friends. Yes, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Let's see what's the weak spot of this thing. That's definitely not his face. Hello. Oh boy. Well, we're seeing some explosions as well. That's great. Maybe over there. Yes? Yeah, I think that's the weak spot, guys. We're dead. That was fast. Dropping to 58 frames per second there at minimum when we died and that thing popped up. So yeah, it's a very solid experience. Next is Red Dead Redemption 2 at 1080p resolution using the optimized settings by Benchmark King. And these settings provide like 90% of the visual quality of maximum settings, but with a huge gain in performance. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any good anti-aliasing option available to us on the Titan X little p, because, well, if you disable TAA altogether, it becomes a shimmer fest. If you enable it, it gets really soft, as you can see. And there's no other anti-aliasing from upscalers, you know, like DLAA or FSR native AA, XESS native AA. There is DLAA override with the Nvidia RTX GPUs that is super nice, and after seeing it with DLAA, I just can't go back and play with TAA. But if you have this GPU, you've never seen it with DLAA, and this is pretty much as good as it gets right now. Anyway, let's go to the Strawberry Town, which is one of the most intensive areas in the entire game, and see how much it will drop there. And most importantly, let's kill Bob. Grab our lasso over here, and Bob is right there today. Good stuff. Hello, Bob. Come here with us. This is the old times radio, my friends. Sing, Bob, sing. It's beautiful, isn't it? Anyway, 80 frames per second around Strawberry. This is it, by the way. It says right there, Strawberry Town. And it's dropping into the 70s, low 70s here. Will it dip down from 70 FPS? That's the real question. Well, even if it does, it won't dip down from 60 FPS. So you're all good, guys. It's going to be a super stable, super immersive, really good experience here in Red Dead Redemption 2. You could possibly increase it to 1440p as well and achieve close to 60 FPS. Let's move on. 69 FPS, 1% lows. Amazing. That's the cherry on top, my friends. How the heck are we starting with 69 F? I don't understand why this number follows us. This is The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered at 1080p resolution using TAA, which doesn't look terrible in this one, okay? And the high settings preset. And this looks really good. Like, look at these graphics right now. Just compare it a little bit, again, with Borderlands 4 and tell me, how the heck did they manage to screw up that game's optimization so much? Like, come on. Granted, that's an open world title and yada yada, but still, like, if you remove all of the grass in that one and it still performs like crap. And here, we're inside of a big forest area, which is actually really intensive in this game as well for the GPU to render. And look at that. We're getting 60 plus 100% of the time, going over 80 FPS at times. Now, this is not the most intensive area here in the Seattle forest. We're approaching it just a little bit. That little step over there is where it gets the most intense. And I think, yeah, it will likely drop from 60, 58, 59 there. Okay, so it only drops to 58 FPS. I'm fine with that. I'm able to keep the high settings preset here with the Titan X little p. It's still a very smooth experience. You can slightly overclock the card if you want to make sure that it doesn't drop from 60 FPS at all. And look at that VRAM allocation as well. This is a 12GB GPU. So in this game, I've seen the RTX 4060 and some other GPUs with 8GB in some certain scenarios dropping a lot of performance and stuttering because the VRAM wasn't enough on high. Over here, it's starting to drop a little bit from 60 FPS again, but at the same time, this is a single-player title. I feel like I would keep the high settings because it looks so damn good. So Titan X Lil P still very viable for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Next up is Counter-Strike 2 at 1080p resolution using the high settings preset without MSAA. I disabled that so we can extract a bit more performance, you know. And, well, since we're pairing this card with a 9800X3D, we're getting extremely high FPS. But if you want to do GPU benchmarks, you can't have a CPU bottleneck. So, yeah, if we had a CPU bottleneck, we'd be seeing what the CPU was able to do, not the GPU. So the performance that we're seeing right now is exactly what the Titan X little P can do in this game at high settings, when not CPU bound. Alright, there we go. Do you like my new knife, by the way? I love it. It's the Huntsman. It's been a really long time since I had a CS2 knife, since like 2016 or 15 or something like that. But you know, they dropped in price a lot, and I just picked this one up because I sold some other skins as well that I had. The red skins went up in price like crazy. Hello? Nope! What didn't go up is my skill. Unfortunately, for some reason, I'm playing worse. My crosshair is also the default one, which is super distracting for some reason. Like, what happened there? Probably my sensitivity isn't even the one that I usually utilize. Yeah, I feel like that. Or maybe I've been playing so much Battlefield 6 that I forgot how to play Counter-Strike at this point. There we go. At least we got a few kills here in the tunnels. No worries, you can still play competitively with the Titan X little P. And as usual in Counter-Strike, what matters the most is the CPU here. Although if you have something like a GT 1030, obviously, you can't really play this one very well. It will become CPU bound even with stuff like i5 4th gens and so on. Big stutter there for some reason. What happened? It's probably Windows doing something in the background. Alright, there we go. A couple of headshots there. Good stuff. This guy's AFK. Is it my AFK? I think so. So far, so good. Yes, it's my AFK. Nobody steals that from me. Whoa, that was a sick shot, actually. What? That was single tap right there. I did not see that coming. My AFK person. God. I'm first place, but I am struggling so much here. I need to get back to my form in Counter-Strike. Come on. Oh, right. That was a nice triple, though. Not bad, not bad. Okay, these guys are even not that good. Yeah, boy, get wrecked with my new knife. Amazing. There we go. Come on, come on, come on. All right. All right. Another one. Another one. Okay, we're holding the doors. We are Hodor. Hell yes. Woo! Kill the chickens. Woo! Come on. Move. Woo! No! I think I'm getting the hang of this again, guys. Maybe I should have warmed up before I started recording this Counter-Strike clips over here. But yeah, this is working well, obviously. And here I was thinking that I don't know how to play Counter-Strike anymore. I can't control my recoils. I have bad aim now. And I got 82 kills so far. Like, what is happening? Revenge. 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 Oh, there it is. There it is. My friends, we got 1,000 points. 1,072 points because of that chicken right there. 90 kills. What happened? Now, it's another one of my favorite games of 2025, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at 1080p using high settings, FSR 3.1 native AA, so it's still 100% resolution scale, and the high settings preset. And here we are getting around 70 frames per second. FSR 3.1 native AA does lower down your performance by quite a bit, about 10 frames per second. So if you want to disable that and use like TAA or no AA whatsoever, or SMAA 1TX, whatever they're calling it. You can do that and achieve slightly higher frame rates, but it will be super shimmery or super soft, and I don't really recommend it. I feel like native AA here from FSR works the best, and I will take that performance hit since this is a single-player title and one that actually is pretty well optimized. You can see the frame time graph is super flat. There is no fluctuation there, even inside of forest areas, which I thought would drop the FPS by quite a lot here on this card. It's still holding 65 plus frames per second pretty much at all times. So this is phenomenal performance. I've also seen some 8GB GPUs struggling quite a bit on high settings with high textures, because after a while it tends to go over 8GB of VRAM usage, and once again it's a non-issue here with the Titan X little p. It won't suffer from any stuttering due to VRAM related issues, and you should definitely give this game a go if you got something like a GTX 1060 and above, because it still ran pretty well on a GTX 1060. So yeah, no surprise that it runs this well, but it still outperformed my expectations, since I thought it was going to drop into the lower 60s and possibly from 60s here in these forest areas. So let's move on to more unoptimized crap, shall we? And this is the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered at 1080p resolution using the low settings with FSR native AA. And well, yes, we were getting 120s in the menu, and you'd think that with these graphics we would probably get 120s in the game itself as well, after all that we've seen in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Battlefield 6, Ark Raiders, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, but no! This is, well, it's a little bit better at least than Borderlands 4, right? Like, we're getting 50s instead of 40s and 30s at low settings, and we still have grass enabled on low settings, Borderlands, but at the same time, it's extremely underwhelming performance. And this one also stutters a lot. At least Borderlands 4 doesn't stutter too much. It's not too noticeable, at least. This one is very noticeable. You have traversal stutters as well. Depending on where you are in the map, you'll need to load new things, and it will have those spikes there that we can see in the frame times graph. Yeah, it just feels really bad. I don't enjoy this game. I wish I could enjoy this game and have fun with it, but with this amount of instability and stuttering, no. Look at this water, dude. Oh. All we can do is laugh. Otherwise, I will just cry. Oh, boy. GTA 5 enhanced is next at 1080p resolution using the very high settings preset with FSR 3 native AA, which is the best anti-aliasing available for this card. And these are the settings. I also disabled the motion blur. That's the only thing I changed. And we're getting a really smooth experience. Look at this. Oh boy. Obviously, it's not a next-gen title, this one. Well, you could say that the enhanced edition with ray tracing is next-gen, but we don't have access to ray tracing in this one either, even though Nvidia says, or GPU-Z says, that this GPU supports ray tracing. Since it doesn't have RT cores, you can't enable those features in a lot of titles, unfortunately, but there are a few of them where you can play with RT. Now, since we're getting a buttery smooth, high refresh rate experience all of the time here at 1080p resolution with these settings, I feel like you should play the enhanced edition with the Titan X little p. With older GPUs, I usually say, go play the legacy version because it runs a lot better and it looks almost the same. But in this case, yeah, why not use this one, right? And if you want to play online, you should also play the enhanced edition as well. I don't think the legacy is working online anymore, so it's good to see that it can keep up with some good graphical settings still. This is especially great after coming from Oblivion Remastered as well, by the way, because it's such a smooth experience with zero stutters that that game could only dream of having as stable of a frame time graph as this one does, right? Bethesda. I mean, anyway, Jack, hello, buddy. How's it going? It's very nice to see you. They also don't have a Jack, or at least I can't find him because it stutters so much that I don't want to play their game. But this one, oh boy, this one I want to play. and I would be super happy to play with this GPU, of course, even with a lack of ray tracing. Goodbye, Bob! And once again, this is one of those games where if you want to play at like 1440p resolution, it will work absolutely fine just by seeing the FPS that we're getting here in 1080p resolution. You'd probably get like around 80 frames without dropping from 60 at 1440p, which is extremely impressive, but I'm focusing at 1080p resolution here today because we got a bunch of games to test. Let's move on to the next one. Next up is Silent Hill F, and we're playing this one at the 1080p resolution. It still has that 24 Hz bug. It's not at 24 Hz, but why bother fixing things, right? I'm also using 100% resolution scale here. Indirect lighting is set to off because there's only lumen options enabled. This reflections option is also screen space, no lumen here, and the rest of the settings are set to medium aside from texture quality, which is on very high because we have 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Let's start counting our FPS, and we're starting at around 60 frames per second. This is also a pretty intensive area for the GPU to render since it has a lot of vegetation here. So inside of the city, you will likely see higher FPS if you're not CPU bound, that is. But yeah, 60 to 70 sometimes, dropping into the 50s is what you can expect in Silent Hill F, which is not terrible given that this is UE5 and it's a recent title. However, there are plenty of games that this GPU can run with better graphics and just higher FPS, as we've seen so far. But hey, it's a common thing with this engine, isn't it? Also, these slowdowns that we see here, we're gonna see a couple of them. We saw one, and now there should be another one. Yep, right there. These happen no matter what GPU I'm using, even a 5090, 5080s. I've tested all of the 60-tier GPUs as well, since the GTX 1060 all the way up to the 5060 in this game in a single video, and all of them had this same behavior. So it's not due to the GPU, it's just an optimization once again, but this is not the worst optimized UE5 title. The main issue that I have in this game is that the cutscenes are capped to 30 frames per second, but there is a mod that you can utilize to increase the FPS in cutscenes, and as you can see, now that we are in a little bit of a city area, we're getting 70s and 80s. Now this game is pretty scary actually, but I think the scariest thing that you will find is the ghosting around your character, especially when using TAA. It's not too noticeable right now, but there is a ton of ghosting. Alright. But anyways, overall, the latest Silent Hill game will be playable on the Titan X Little P. Marvel Rivals is up next. We're playing this one at 1080p resolution, utilizing the lowest settings for a competitive experience. And no, we're not gonna get 758 frames per second, unfortunately, because it's UE5. But even though we're not getting 700 frames per second or something crazy like that, doesn't mean that the Titan X Little P can't handle this UE5 title. Indeed, it can, with flying colors. And speaking of colors, it's a very colorful game. That's why I said flying colors, by the way. Anyway, it's still able to provide a high refresh rate experience here at 1080p native resolution. No need to utilize FSR on quality or frame generation, which doesn't work very well in this game. At least I don't like it, okay. Wait, come on, diving strike, whatever, okay. Yeah, lots of effects right now. Things are still completely under control in terms of performance. But yeah, the low settings are definitely adequate here, which is a shame, again, because this doesn't look better than something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 or Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and it's supposed to be a competitive shooter, so it should perform better, in my opinion. And well, with all of its shortcomings, at least the Titan X Little P still has what it takes to run Marvel Rivals properly. It's not like some older GPUs, which you'd think they could run it because of the graphics, but then they can't because of UE5. Yeah. At least this one still has the power to run it. Fortnite's a bit different, guys. We're at 1080p resolution using DirectX 12, high settings here, as you can see, and this is what it looks like today. It's because it's the Simpsons season or whatever. It looks very, very different, as you can see, and I think I'm not gonna play it for a long time because we should be back in normal Fortnite in a few days, I hope. Like, I'm not a big fan of this art style, honestly, in Fortnite. Previously, the graphics were really beautiful. We had a lot of vegetation, which was intensive, right? And now they just look like this. So I guess it's not as intensive as previously. So it's not really that good of a benchmark here because of just the season that it's running at the moment. Oh boy, oh, I thought I was gonna die there. Whew, okay. I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of this. This is probably gonna be useless again as a benchmark in a few days or weeks, maybe. So let's leave it right there. I guess we will need to make a full-on benchmark video for Fortnite in this GPU later, if you guys are interested, of course. Okay, this is Alan Wake 2 next at 1080p native resolution with FSR2 and the low settings preset, which still has some things on high and some things on medium, but this game is way too intensive. You know, at least it got updated to support these GTX GPUs, the higher-end stuff like 1080 Ti, Titan X, Pascal, Titan X little p. These GPUs were getting like 10 FPS before the update, and now they're able to play the game with 30 plus at the very least. So it's not all bad news. You can still enjoy it. It's not a stuttery mess of an experience either, so it's okay-ish. You actually got a little stutter there. But at least now it's able to achieve decent FPS. And inside of the city, it gets a little bit better, like 5 more FPS than what you see here. So that's going to be more playable. But yeah, if you're someone who bought this GPU for $1,200 back when it released, this is not an experience that you will put up with, I think. But if you buy this GPU for like $100 in the used market, well, sure, maybe it's actually a decent experience. Next up is Dying Light the Beast at 1080p resolution using FSR native AA and the medium settings preset, which look okay. I mean, this grass is not really that amazing, but yeah. Let's start counting our FPS. It looks very similar to the high settings preset here on medium, and this allows for 50 to 60 frames per second, which is not really amazing, is it? I honestly expected a little bit better because this game is actually decently optimized, but fortunately, guys, we can still play the game like this. It's single player once again, so 50 to 60 FPS is fine. And in this title, frame generation actually works really well. It's one of those games where it was probably made with FG in mind. And also in terms of the visuals, it's very good. So here we are. Yeah, I can definitely feel the input lag addition here. But again, it's single player. It's first-person shooter, yeah, so that bothers me a little bit usually, but since they had FG in mind when making the game, I guess, it works pretty well with it. I'm fine with this experience. After like a minute or so of gameplay, you will be used to that input lag addition, and since you don't really need to shoot a lot of things in this game, it's gonna be fine, honestly. And this provides a much more stable experience with 90 frames per second, still keeping the native resolution here at 1080p. Again, maybe I praised it a little bit too much for its optimization, and it's not really all that amazing, but it's still a decently optimized game in my opinion. Indiana Jones in the Great Circle would be next if it actually launched on this GPU. I don't think it will unless the game got updated, but yeah, there we go. Render setup error because we're missing Vulkan. It's hardware ray tracing that's required, as you can see there. Hardware ray tracing is required. As I said previously in this video, the Titan X little p does support ray tracing, but it's through the drivers. So it's not hardware ray tracing that we can't play Indiana Jones and some other games that require hardware ray tracing, basically, which is a bit of a shame because I'm sure if we could actually launch it, it would play nicely. We're playing Assassin's Creed Shadows now at 1080p resolution using FSR native AA and the low settings preset. In terms of ray traced global illumination, we can't even choose anything else other than hideout only. And on the ray tracing settings, the ray tracing quality settings, we can actually choose between a lot of them, but it's best to keep it on lowest. And look at this. The game actually does look pretty good on low settings still. It's a bit bland without ray tracing, honestly. Like, that adds a lot of ambient occlusion and just better illumination, GI. Let's start counting our FPS as well. I thought it was going to perform a little bit better, but this game is super demanding. It's way too intensive. It's not very well optimized because of it. At least it doesn't stutter at all, so it can provide a good experience like this still. But the thing is, I would probably not play like this, because just like in Dying Light the Beast, frame generation was in the mind of the developers when they were making this game, for sure, and as a result of that, it works very well with minimal addition of input lag while providing great visuals at the same time, so let's enable it. Here we go, AMD FSR FG is now enabled, and we're now getting over 80 frames per second. It's also a much smoother experience. Look at this, damn, night and day. And again, in terms of input lag, I can notice a little bit of a difference there, but for a third-person game, especially that single player, I would rather play like this with FG enabled than without FG enabled in this particular title. It just works really, really well. And now we got a buttery smooth experience with pretty low input lag in terms of frame generation, because usually you require like 60 FPS baseline for you to enable frame generation and have a low input lag experience. But in this game, you don't need that. And after seeing this game completely destroying the performance of like the 5070 Ti, you know, it's good that the GPU that is this old can play it. God damn. Forza Horizon 5 is at 1080p resolution, guys, using TAA and the extreme graphics preset. And it's at 100 FPS. That is phenomenal. I mean, granted, again, this isn't a very recent title, but it still looks beautiful. It's very well optimized, and the 12 gigabytes of VRAM on this GPU actually make it so it's way better than any 8GB card in this particular title. That's because after you've played for like 20 minutes in Forza Horizon 5, it starts creeping up to 8GB territory of VRAM, and then it starts stuttering heavily. Get out of the way! You flipping bastards, if I lose my spoiler because of you, I will wreck your faces. Okay, there we go. Oh, we're going really fast, we're going really fast, we're going too fast, too fast! Oh boy! No, it's fine. It is absolutely fine. Look at that, that was all controlled. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. And if you're wondering, inside of bushy situations, it doesn't really drop a ton of FPS. It drops to basically the 1% lows that we've seen here, 73 frames per second. Not bad at all. And we are finally in the city area. Things are starting to drop a little bit into the lower 70s, as you can see. Maybe it's going to drop from 60 in the tunnel area, because that's the most intensive thing that you can do in this game. I don't think so, though. It only dropped to like 72, 73. Come on. Yeah, what are we doing? My driving skills translate into the games. Anyway, here we are inside of the tunnel. It drops into the lower 70s, but getting out of the tunnel, it does dip down from 60 just to shut me up a little bit, I guess, because we got 58 FPS minimum here, which is basically 60. It only happens for a split second anyway, so it's super enjoyable. Anyways, that's it for this game. Let's move on to Black Ops 7, which will come out in 2 days. So I'll need to wait 2 days to make that clip. And here we are, Black Ops 7 at 1080p resolution, utilizing the Ultra Settings preset with Fidelity FX Cast sharpening the image, and I disabled depth of field. That's the only change I made to the preset here. And here we have it. Let's start counting our FPS. It seems like the Titan X Little P still has what it takes to play the latest Call of Duty title. Absolutely fine. Look at that. We're well above 60 frames per second. There are more intensive maps than this one, though, so expect like 5 to 10 FPS drops in some of the maps, but overall it should deliver a really stable experience even in those maps. Hello, okay, finally we're back into it. We've been dying for like 6 times in a row. Okay, anyway, we're doing this, guys. Got a couple of kills. What the heck? Yeah, it's pretty stable, guys. Of course, if you want to get more FPS, there's always the option of using like balanced settings or even lowest settings for competitive play, that should give you 100 plus frames per second that a lot of people search for in these games. But even if you want some graphical fidelity out of your game, you can have it with a Titan X little p, and the same goes for like a GTX 1080 Ti, for example. That's only 10% faster or so, it will still do a pretty good job in this one, as it should. These are old cards, but they're very capable. Oh man, there were two of them there, but we did pretty well. We got a little kill streak. Come on, let's see. There he is. Okay. All right. Don't die, Crisp, don't die. We can do this. We can win this one. Just pay attention, please. There we go. Ah, damn it. Okay, so we're very close together, actually. Again, this is 96 to 96. It ends at 100, by the way. I don't want to die and ruin it for my team, and we actually got it. That is unbelievably close. 100 to 99. Couldn't have been closer than that, guys. Damn! And the Titan XP, I didn't really feel at a big disadvantage. Obviously, getting 100 plus FPS would make it a different experience, more competitive one, but this still feels and plays pretty good. And it is conclusion time, my friends. I'll still have 6 more games running while we talk a little bit about the performance of the Titan X little p, whether or not you should buy one here in 2025, and, well, just how beautiful it is, because it is really, really pretty of a GPU. I think it's my new favorite card in my collection. Previously, it was GTX Titan X Maxwell Edition from the 900 series that was similar in performance to the 980 Ti, but now it's definitely this one. It's so gorgeous. But let's talk about what's important. The performance was actually pretty good. As you saw, there are plenty of recent titles that this GPU still runs, even 8 years later. It's almost 9 years old as well. It released in April of 2017. Now, obviously, when it comes to unoptimized titles, it still can play them, like Borderlands 4, for example, but it leaves a lot to be desired. In that case, I don't consider it a very good experience anymore, and you should be looking for an upgrade if you have one of these cards. But still, those are terribly optimized titles that even latest generation GPUs struggle with, so of course you can't expect an 8-year-old GPU to do well in those. But when it comes to well-optimized titles, even recent ones like Battlefield 6, for example, or Ark Raiders, those games run beautiful on this thing. It was actually kind of mind-blowing how well this keeps up in those particular games. I think it actually beats the RTX 3060 in Battlefield 6, for example. Very impressive. Another great thing about this GPU is, of course, the fact that it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which is not a limitation whatsoever. You can increase the texture quality in some games and achieve better results than something like an RTX 4060 or even 5060 when those GPUs are VRAM bound. So no problems here with the 8-year-old champ. And well, the most insane part is it's 2025 and we still have 8 gigabyte GPUs, but that's something for another day. So all in all, the performance is definitely acceptable aside from a couple of games. Now, should you buy one of these? I bought this one for 225 euros, with shipping included, and well, at that price, definitely not. You should be paying around like 150 for one of these, or even less than that. I mean, I overpaid, of course, because I really wanted to take a look at the Titan X little p here in games. I was very curious, and the design is just beautiful. But if you're looking for the best value, this definitely ain't it. It still retails for a premium compared to something like a 1080 Ti, for example, mostly because it was so rare and it still has that Titan status to it. Also, a couple of more disadvantages are, of course, the power consumption. Being an older GPU, it consumes 250 watts, and with a newer card, with that kind of TDP, you would be getting a lot more performance, of course. And also the driver support. It still supports the latest drivers, but the 10 series will probably stop receiving driver updates very shortly. I'm not sure, though, but they've been running for a long time. And that's been about it for this video, my friends. friends. I hope you guys enjoyed the look at the Titan X little p, aka the best GTX GPU. It's a very small improvement in performance compared to the 1080 Ti, and it was not a great deal back in the days for $1,200 or even $1,000, but it's certainly a very cool GPU, and I loved taking a look at it. Thanks very much for watching. Catch you in the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.